Play. Hey. Hey. What? Eurovision 2020. I got a new video. Alesia Michelle. I'm ready to go. Eurovision fam. Are you ready for the show? Hello, Eurovision fam. It's Alesia Michelle, your favorite American Eurovision fan. And I am here today to talk about Eurovision 2020 Semifinal of Death, which was or is Semifinal 1. Now, of course, we don't have a competition this year, but like I said, we could still do some predictions. Yes, we could do some predictions. We'll never know what really would have happened, but I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is probably what would have happened. You know what I mean? Like, come on, right? Come on, right? Cause like I'm psychic, you know? All right, so before we get into this video, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this right now, cause I already know there are gonna be some people dropping down in the comments like,
how could you say that this song wouldn't qualify?
Well, first of all, like, Semifinal 1 is the semifinal of death. I mean, there were a lot of quality songs in the semi. So just because I don't think that a song isn't gonna make it through, doesn't necessarily mean that I think I don't like it. It doesn't necessarily mean that I think the song is bad. So just go on and calm down before we even get into this, because this is about what I think could have happened. Now you can disagree with me. That's totally fine. Talk to me in the comments below. But like, let's be real. Like, we have 10 songs to choose from. Only 10 slots, okay? So like, give me a break. 10 slots. That's it, all right? So firstly, I'm gonna get into the songs that I definitely think were like hands down a lock. Like, I don't think that there's any debate that these songs would have made it through. Lithuania, Russia, Sweden, Azerbaijan, and Israel. I'm pretty sure that those songs, for sure, were going to be in the grand final. You know, I think the only one on there that I'm like, I would have been prepared for maybe a little bit of an upset, maybe could have been Israel, because in the past, anything that kind of has like a little bit of like an Afrobeats inspiration or anything kind of like African inspired, and I am thinking about Hababa, because that song was definitely robbed that year. Like, real talk, like even watching it back, I'm like, yeah, don't see how that didn't go to the grand final. Like, just don't see how that didn't happen with the makeup that we had. But again, I mean, Eden, she was just so phenomenal. I think that stage show was gonna be great. It was one of my favorite songs. So I'm pretty confident that it would have made it through, but I would have prepared myself to be let down, like, and have a little bit of a surprise. But I'm pretty sure that it would have gone through. Lithuania, Russia, Sweden, Azerbaijan, and Israel, I think were like a lock. Like, I'm just gonna say, like, I think that they were a lock for the grand final, and I don't think there was gonna be a lot of question around whether they were gonna qualify or not. Next up, I've got two songs that I feel like they probably would have made it through, but I will say that I did feel like one country has kind of an iffy voting record as far as like televotes matching up with like jury votes. So there definitely could have been an upset in the making, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that I think Malta was gonna be in the grand final. Like, I do think that this song could have been a little bit more high impact, but it's definitely one of my favorites this year. I really like it. I think Destiny, ooh, I mean, that song was going to be executed flawlessly on stage. Flawlessly. But I do know that in the past, like, Malta has struggled sometimes, like with points. And even with Chameleon last year, like looking at some of the numbers, like more so in the grand final than in the semi, I'm kind of like, oh, but that was like a really high impact, good song. And it still probably didn't get enough points in my opinion. So I have to feel like, maybe I'm a little bit nervous, but again, I'm pretty sure that Malta was going to be in the grand final. Like, that song was just too good to leave behind. It really was too good to be left behind. But let's be real, we've had good songs left behind before. The next country I do feel like was going to be in the grand final was Australia. And the only reason why I'm not necessarily saying that it's a lock is because I did feel like some folks felt like it was a little bit divisive. I feel like my reaction to the song and just like kind of my continued love, I would see in the comments from y'all that some of y'all really weren't feeling Australia that much this year. And so like I get that, like I read my comments, I respond, I understand where y'all are coming from. For me though, I think that Australia would have ended up in the final. I don't think that this would have been the first year for Australia not to end up in the final. I think on stage it would have been executed in a way that would have been impactful. And I do feel like the juries would have given it some love. And I think that Australia would have found itself ultimately in the grand final. So that leaves 3 slots open. And on that note, I am going to move on and talk about the countries that I'm gonna just go ahead and say right now, I don't think that they would have qualified for the grand final. This was the semifinal of death. We had a lot of heavy hitters and countries with really interesting like records going into this semi. So let me just like touch on that for a minute. I am pretty sure that Ireland, North Macedonia, and Slovenia probably would not have qualified. I think it's a mixture of like running order. I think it's a mixture of just what they decided to serve this year. I think it also is just honestly like kind of like casualties of war. I mean, this semifinal is just hard hitting. It's coming heavy. It's coming with heat. And I think that these 3 countries, although their songs were definitely not lacking in quality, I think ultimately the impact might have been missing. And I think that unique it factor to truly make them stand out on stage next to some of these like heavy hitters, it would have been complicated. I think it would have been complicated. And I think that a lot of them would have ended up kind of just falling by the wayside. So yeah, that's Slovenia, Ireland, and North Macedonia. I just don't think that it was about to be there for them this year. So we can just go ahead and eliminate them from the running. So now if you're keeping track of my Surefire qualifiers, this is where I'm at right now. I've got Australia, Lithuania, Russia, Sweden, Azerbaijan, Israel, and Malta. So I got 3 slots left in my like advancement category, okay? Let's talk about the countries that I have on the fence. Here's the thing. I love Ukraine's entry this year. Like, love that entry. I think it's really interesting. I think it's unique. I think it's modern. I think it's ethnic. To me, it kind of is a mix of like everything that I love about Eurovision. And I do think that Ukraine always really delivers quality. Like, legitimately, there's a reason why they've got a perfect qualification record. But given what happened last year, I feel so insecure about Ukraine actually qualifying. I legitimately have Ukraine on my fence for qualification. I would have loved to see it straight in the final, but I think it would have been a fight. I think it would have been a battle for them to make it there. Let's talk about Belgium. Belgium is probably one of my most forgettable tracks this year, which is interesting because I am like a Hooverphonic fan, and this is arguably like the music I would listen to like outside of like Eurovision, because it is music that I have listened to outside of Eurovision. But I'm gonna tell you, I think the thing with Belgium is they have yet to make me feel confident that they know how to stage an entry. And this song needed impeccable staging, needed impeccable, flawless, impactful staging. It could not have just been her in a dress or an outfit with the band in the background with some cool lights singing the song. That would not have cut it. I'm sorry. It would not have cut it. Not in this semifinal, not this year. So Belgium is firmly in my fence category. And I would say firmly in my fence category / like it probably wasn't going to qualify, just based off the strength that like I mean, last year Belgium had one of the best songs like of last year. It was a great track. It was, and that staging was awful. Awful. The staging and styling was awful. So honestly, like, it doesn't really have anything to do with the song, and this is what I hate. I'm not saying that it wouldn't qualify because of the song. I'm saying that I feel iffy about it qualifying simply for the fact that I have zero confidence that this on stage would have translated in an impactful way, unfortunately. Let's talk about one of my favorites. So Belarus's song this year, I love. I'm sorry. I really, really like that song. It is definitely one of my most listened to tracks this year for Eurovision 2020. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that this is just a really tough semi. I also think that not a lot of y'all seem to be really excited about it. It just didn't really ever get that hype and buzz around it that I think would have maybe pushed it over the edge. Again, I really, really like this song. I would have loved to see it in the grand final just because I really like it. But ultimately, I don't think that Belarus would probably have made it through. I think it would have been on the fence. But the fence leaning towards probably not. Yeah. Now let's hop back into who I think will qualify. Because I haven't spoken about Norway and Romania. I'm just going to say it. I think Romania is going to qualify. I think Romania is going to qualify. I think the only thing complicated about it was that they would have to really be careful not to do too much on stage. Because we know Romania can do a lot. Okay? We know that they want to do a lot on stage. And really, they would have to be really, really thoughtful about that staging. I'm so glad that they revamped the song in the way that they did. They needed to. They needed to. Romania, although I think that with the original version of Alcohol You, it might have been a surprise, like tricky situation, tricky situation just because the song needed that impact. It needed that moment on the stage. But like I said, I think that Romania is definitely going to be in there. So I'm putting Romania in my grand final. Okay, and let me hop back to the fence. I'm going to go ahead and say low-key Cyprus might have found itself on the fence this year. I think low-key. I think what Cyprus had working to their advantage was the fact that, especially in this semifinal, there was definitely an it factor. There was definitely a little note to Cyprus's entry this year that allows them to stand out. So I think Cyprus could have low-key ended up on the fence or low-key just kind of squeaking through. But I think they would have ended up squeaking through and making it through. But I want to just say here and now that I do think running the staging had to be impeccable. But honestly, Cyprus knows how to stage. Cyprus is thoughtful about that. So I think that Cyprus would have done what they needed to do to make it to the grand final. But I do think that they got lucky with choosing the artist that they chose, having the type of song that they had, because in this semifinal, there's something about it that does allow the track to stand out in a way that I don't think that it would have if it had been in semifinal 2 with, quite frankly, more of the guys. And ultimately, I think in the grand final this year, Cyprus probably wasn't going to finish very high just because of like then kind of becoming forgettable in the mix of things. Whereas in this semi, I think Cyprus does actually make it through just off the strength of it being kind of different. And so finally, I haven't talked about Norway. It's one of my favorites this year. I think that Norway is going to be in the final. And that's probably my final qualifier. And you might be thinking to yourself, wait, that means that you probably won't have Ukraine qualifying. And I guess that's what I'm saying. But I will say this. If Ukraine qualified, I'm kind of thinking Cyprus is out of the mix. But I do think that Norway is qualifying. That vocal performance alone would just, it'd be difficult for me not to see that in the top 5 of a lot of juries in this semi. And even if the televote blanked it, which I don't think that would have happened, I think there would have been enough momentum with the juries to get Norway through. So yes, that means that I am possibly suggesting that this might have been Ukraine's first non-qualification. Maybe, because again, I'm telling you, I'm swapping Cyprus out. Cyprus could have seen itself go by the wayside a little bit in favor of Ukraine making it through. But honestly, based off of the jury scores and the televote scores last year, I don't feel confident that Europe would have really propelled Ukraine back into the final. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You know, maybe there would be some residual, like, you didn't give us Maruv last year. Angst for the Ukraine, you know? Like, maybe. I don't know. Well, do you agree with me? Talk to me in the comments below. Do you disagree with me? Talk to me in the comments below. We're going to review this again real quick. This is my semifinal 1 prediction of my Surefire qualifiers. I am saying Australia, Lithuania, Russia, you're in the final. Sweden, Azerbaijan, Cyprus, yeah, even though Cyprus, you know, it's a little bit tricky, but I'm saying you're in the final. Israel, Malta, Norway, and Romania. Yeah, y'all are in the final. Okay, don't forget to like and to subscribe. I still have more content coming for you. So yes, be sure to like and subscribe. Always talk to me in the comments below, because this is a conversation. Bye.